Okay, I believe it's recording. What? Yeah, I think it's recording. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? So you guys did a lot of practice about list and dictionary.
Yeah, I did practice, but not much more because of the illness.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I got pretty much good knowledge for that list and dictionary as well.
Very good, very good. Because I don't want you to memorize or anything. Just know what list is, what are the different data type, right? And then what can goes inside the list, what is dictionary, what is different between those two. And these things, like we are now just starting, so this will gonna come back over and over and over as we start, progressing. So for now, just understand what this means. Try to difference between those, and then we'll come back to it again. So we did that dictionary and list. So today what we'll do is tonight we'll do tuple and set. So Leknath was already doing tuple in his own. So we'll do some tuple and tuple unpacking, and then set. So set is similar to all these tuple sets dictionary. They are kind of same, different data type, but they are exactly not same. Okay, so just know what is the difference between those, each one of them. The first interview questions they have asked me is what is tuple? Do you know what tuple is? Right, it's a very simple questions, but if you don't know and can answer that, then you're not going to be able to do the hard tasks. So tuple, that was the question that one of the hiring director asked me. Different, what is tuple and what is the difference between tuple and list? So know that, right? And sets and dictionary. And so what we'll cover is we'll also do for loop, right? We did some for loop, we did some list comprehension, a little bit of it. I kind of introduced to you guys, but we didn't do a lot of practice. So today we'll do a lot of hand practice on for loop and list comprehensions and all that. So for loop, again, we use for loop to loop through those certain things number of time, right? So it's basically saving our time, and we want to automate stuff. Like we don't want to do things over and over and over. So we want to create a loop where it will do automatically. That's all it's about. Like we want to automate stuff in the computer. So that's why for loop is used. And here, for example, here is one for val in the string. So val, so this is just a variable. This can be anything, like I talked last time. So we have, this is the syntax for, you have to use for loop. This is syntax for, that is going to be always, you have to use that. It basically just memorize this. That's not going to change. And for and val, this is the variable, and that is going to, you can put anything you want. And then what you are looping through, like whatever you're looping through, list or dictionary or a string, goes here. Like let's say you have a list of 1000 elements, right? And you don't want to go through each one of them, but you want computer to go through each one of them. Then you use for loop, go through all the 1000 elements inside that list, and then print me anything. Like if there is some conditions, like if the value is equals to I, or I means right here, what this is saying is if the value, this variable here, is equals to I, then break, otherwise print. So and then you can pass in as many conditions as you want inside the for loop, which we'll talk about that the next, in our lab section. And then conditions, right? Like I was saying, so condition can be anything, any kind of condition, greater than, less than, equals to, and so you can apply any kind of conditions. All there is also called is in. If that number is in the list, then print this. Otherwise, don't print it, right? So multiple conditions. So we talked about this in our, not, I mean, we already know about this, some of the operators, like greater than, less than, from our high school, equals to, or greater than, less than, equals to, equals to. So we'll use all those things. So that is just the basic theory about, for loop, conditions, tuple, and sets. So sets, again, it's unique elements, right? We talked about it last time. You can only have unique elements in the set. So you cannot have same kind of value, like a 1 1 2 2 inside the set. Set only takes unique elements, so remember that. So let's go to, so what we'll talk about set,
Hello, Varunich.
we'll talk about set, tuple, for loop, conditions, and function, right?
Record clicker.
Okay, so
Airport user.
I can unmute. Okay, let me there we go. Okay, so let's go to the actual programming that we're going to do. So what we're going to start is we'll start with tuples and then sets. So Walter going to start us with tuples and what tuple is, and then how to unpack. It's also called tuple unpacking. Unpacking means like you remember that tuple goes inside the round bracket, like a parentheses. So once you have this tuple, we want to access element inside the tuple, like unpack. Like if there's a bunch of tuples, we want to unpack those. And this might be a little bit confusing for now, but just know that we can unpack tuple. And then again, after we start working in the real data set, then it will come back easy. You guys will start understanding. So we'll do tuple unpacking and then sets. So we'll do a few example of both those, and then we'll jump into functions, list comprehensions, and then different conditions. Okay. So Walter will start us. Okay, go ahead, Walter.
Okay. I think you stop sharing.
Okay, you start sharing now.
All right. Hey, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Walter.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Yeah. So Chris said, right, tuples, right? So the reason we need tuples, right, is because Python sometimes gives you tuples even when you don't ask them to. They'll give you data resulting in tuples. And the second reason is tuples are very good for unpacking data into multiple variables. So what I mean by this is just make an example, right? Well, right. There's a tuple, right? There's a tuple. So if you print it, that's what it looks like. And what Chris was saying about unpacking, right, is that if you wanted to set these three variables if you want to basically take its components and set it to three different variables, what you would do is person 1, person 2, person 3 equals 2, right? And then if I print out like person 2, it's going to print out Chris, right? Because it was the second thing in this tuple, and then it just assigned it to the second unpacking. It's like making 3 empty slots, and you're saying, okay, whatever's in this tuple, just shove them into these 3 slots, right? So person 1 is going to be Walt, right? Person 3, Nabin, right? So it's just gonna take what's in this tuple and then just shove it into the 3 slots that we created, right? So for example, let's make another example. 2. And ice cream, right? Okay, right. So, like for example, like what do you think it's going to print out? Nabin, what do you think food 2 is going to print out?
You're asking Nabin, right?
Yeah, I'm asking
Pizza.
Yeah, pizza, right? Am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
I don't want to. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Right. Yeah, it's going to print out pizza, right? And the same rules that apply for like a list. So like list A is equal to 3, 500, and negative 60. So last week, Chris and I covered like how to use negative index, right? So if you want to print like the last thing in this list, you just print -1 and you print that, right? If you want to print the second to last thing in this list, you can print -2 and it'll give you 500, the second last thing. So the same thing applies to tuples, right? So if I just change this and said tup2, right? And then LecNav. Well, what code should I type to print out ice cream?
For ice cream, it is foot
using
4.
This two. Okay, so what is it telling us?
It's for ice cream.
Yeah, if we put 4, this is what it gives us. So look based on the message, what is it telling us?
Tuple index out of range. Oh, out of range.
Yeah.
So it should be 3 because index is start from 0.
Very
Bingo.
good. Very
Yep,
good.
there we go.
Right. It'll be through.
You got
Right.
1 point tonight.
Okay, right. So I like that. Also, how would I print out ice cream, but without using a negative index? How would I print out ice cream using a negative index?
It is -4.
Well, you just lost that point. Now you are back to 0
No.
because remember he just showed
Oh,
you.
sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
So when every time you want to print the last, do -1. Okay. If you don't do -1, it'll give you the first. If you do just the reverse, basically.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. No, it's
That's
good.
why.
That way you always remember it like that. Right. So yeah, it's good. Right. So yeah. So like now, the reason it printed out chicken, right, is because it's -1, -2, -3, -4. Right. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got it. Yeah, I got it. I forgot
Very
that.
good.
Awesome.
Yeah, very good. Okay, and then also, what you can also do is if I try to do like, let's try to change that to the first item. Let's make it spaghetti, right? So I'm just gonna try and change this, right? So like when I made this list, right, I wanted to change. Let's say like my list A. I want to change the first number to be like my list. So I'm using a list square bracket. Square bracket is a list, right? And I want to change the first number to like 1,000,000, right? Like over here. And then list A is going to show 1,000,000 as the first one, right? It was a list, the square bracket, you can change it, right? Now, if I try to do the same thing with a tuple, right? A tuple, and I try to, let's say to change the first one to spaghetti, right? It's gonna give me an error, right? Because as Chris was talking about,
That's
right?
what we're talking
Tuples, yeah, you can't change the, you can't change anything in the tuple, right?
In the tuple, yeah.
Very good. Right, so let's make like books, right? Books equals I don't know how to read books, but intro here, right? And then we have like what's this, right? And advanced English literature, right? So let's say I made another tuple of books, right? Okay. All right, so Shushma, how would I make the second book in this tuple? Let's say I wanted to make it like the book, the Bible, right? How would I assign the Bible to the second index of this tuple?
You said we cannot change tuple. It's
Right,
not
there you go.
editable.
Right, it's impossible, right? You can't change the tuple.
Yeah.
So very good. Yeah, you can't change the right? If you try it, it'll break, right? Does it make sense so far, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but if we need to change, how we can do that? Like we need to convert that on the list, or
Yes,
what can we do?
that's a good question, Navin. Because if you really, really want to change it, right, you can convert that tuple
Right.
back into list and then do the conversion. Now you
Right,
can
so-
do the conversion.
So you can say books list, right? Now it's a books list, right? And then so Navin, so how do we change the second one to like, let's say the like the Quran? Like how would I move the books list? So now it's a list. So how would I change the second this one, intro to sociology? How would I change it to the Quran?
So you put the index number. What's the index number? 01. Square bracket 0 equals Bible.
Right. So that, yeah, and basically that'll change the first one, right? And
First one, yeah.
yeah, so basically, yeah, very good. And
Yeah, remember
yeah, so that's basic,
indexing it starts from 0, right? Always remember that.
right? Okay, and yeah, so basically, so let's just sum up what we got so far. So tuples, right? We can unpack them like this. Each item could be turned into a separate variable, and also tuples, you can't change it right after you make it. The only way to change it is to convert it into a list, and then change it, right? If you can't change it, so we tried it over here, you can't change the tuple, right? That's basically what we learned so far. List you can change, tuples you can't change, right? And okay, the rest of these are. Let me just read through the rest of these and make sure. Tuple, right? And okay. Right, so let's just do a little review, right? So, okay, so above this is some tuple, right? This is just some random tuple. And let me just. So Peter, what do you think this piece of code would print?
It'll print n.
Yeah, very good, right? It's just it's the
Awesome.
third to last one.
Yeah.
Yep. And last
job.
week, Chris covered using the slice, right? You can get a range of different items based on this piece of code would get negative 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll get from the fourth to last item all the way to the end, right? So this piece of code, like that, right? So that's what that would do. And right, so basically, you can just try out, and then you can also set endpoints to this piece of code, right? It could be like negative 4 to the second to last item, right? And then it'll just only get to, these three, right?
Mm-hmm.
So remember, because the last index is exclusive, right? So it wouldn't get to the second to last one, right? And you can do the same thing you do. I'm just basically trying to show that the same thing slicing you do with lists can be done with tuples, right? So you can just slice it, first, the second to like so we want 1, 2. If I only wanted K and S, right, I would probably do 0, 1, 2, 3, right, like that, right? So it would just be from the second. It will be 0, 1, 2, 3, and it'll only get these two, right? Slicing it, right? So
yeah, remember the slicing is going to be super important. Like, make sure you know how to slice, right? What does this, let's say, sample tuple 1 to 3 means? What does this 1 means? What does negative 1 means? So remember those,
right.
because we're going to come back to these later.
Okay.
Right. So Angela, am I saying your name right? Angela Sunar. Are you comfortable trying to answer what this piece of code would print out?
Yep, that's right, Angela. You can just call me Angela.
Oh, Angela.
It's
Okay.
this is my first class, so I am not really sure. I'm so sorry about that.
That's good.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Yeah, we'll get it.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, if you wanna, if you're not comfortable answering, like, you can, we can wait until later.
If we can't answer, let's go back. Let's go back and review it one more time. So what is that going to do? Sum tuple negative 4 to negative. Go back to the tuple first and let's start counting.
Okay, right. That's a good idea. So let me write out so let me just write it out. So this should be, right, so negative 1. I'm just trying to write this out just to make it look nice.
Because these are important, right? You have to make sure you understand this. This is going to come back many times.
Okay, this is look good. Yeah, so basically the question, what I was basically asking was like, if we wanted to slice, these indexes, right? So it would start from negative 4, right? And it would go all the way up to negative 2, but it wouldn't get the last one, right? Because it's endpoint exclusive, right? So the syntax for it is kind of like starts to write ends not included, right? And then some tuple, right? That's kind of like the format, right? Does that kind of make sense? So in negative 4 to negative 2, it would start at negative 4. It would get the S, right? And then it would go all the way up to negative 2, right? But it won't get it, right? It doesn't include it. So it'll go S, N, L, right? But it doesn't include the last one. So it'll just print SN, okay? And I hope it does. Otherwise, it's going to be embarrassing. Yeah, and it does, right? So that's basically what the code would do.
Now make sense,
Right.
Angela?
Does it make sense?
Now you're getting
Yep.
right. It starts,
Okay.
Yeah.
goes to the end, but it does not include the end.
Right.
It counts it, but it doesn't display the value. Makes sense?
Yeah. That's basically it. Was there anything we really wanted to cover with the tuples that I didn't get to yet? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So you cannot change the things, right? Just remember
Right, yeah.
tuples. And if you really want to
Yeah.
change it, you can always convert that into list, and then change that, and then indexing, and then slicing. So those are the main things that we need to do about tuples. So again, we'll come back to this. Like if it didn't understand, I hope, like, I think it's pretty clear for most of the people. But even if it is not, we'll come back to this later again, and then it will make it clear. So let's go to sets now.
Okay, right. Oh crap. Yeah, I was planning on going through the looping in this notebook before. You want me to just go straight to the set first?
Yes, just the sets, like just the basics about it.
Okay, right. Yeah, I didn't. I'm just gonna prepare something like on the spot, right? Because I didn't. Yeah. So basically, sets are like are things, are data structures that only contain unique items, right? So if we have like a data here, and let's say it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, where's my unique? So
Yeah, right. So yeah, so this is data, right? You print it out, right? That's what it's going to look like, right? A set is just going to make it unique, right?
Yep,
Like
that's
that.
all it says. See, all the
It just
duplicates
takes out
are
the
removed. It only gives you the unique one. If there is a bunch of A's, it'll give you just one A. So that's the basic ideas about sets. So every time you have to count the unique elements in the list or in the series, which we'll talk about later, or data frames, then we will use set.
Right, and also another nice thing about set is that it can even count the duplicate tuples, right? So like this thing, I don't know, be 3, right? And I hope this works. Otherwise, it's right. See, there you go. Right, even the tuple, right? It can count like duplicates, like tuples. You saw it was a duplicate. Yeah, it can even take care of that, right? It's kind of nice. And I think that should do it, right? Sets and right, and
yeah, and
I don't know if you could. Yeah,
as far as looping stuff goes, indexing, everything applies the same, but just you cannot have the duplicate inside the sets.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if you can add things to set. I'm just.
Yeah, you can add things to the set.
Oh crap.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you can add things to sets too. Right. I mean, and if I try to run this code again, right? Crap.
You can, like, for just like a list, you can change sets. You can change tuple. We cannot change things, but sets and tuples you can change things, right? So just know that much for now, and I'll have some exercise. So can you scroll down? Is there do you have exercise in that notebook, or you don't? I thought I have some. Yeah,
there's exercises here.
So there's a couple of one, right? So take some, like let's say about 5 minutes, and can you guys answer these questions? Write a Python program to create a tuple. Create any tuples, real quick.
Okay. You want me to? We want them to share it, so I stop sharing and like somebody else shares it.
Yeah, everybody open your Jupyter notebook. You have been just watching us, right? So which is fun. It's always good to watch. It's easy. Now it's time for you guys to actually do some practice. And you only have 5 minutes. Whatever you can finish in 5 minutes is okay. Oh, let me keep sharing that screen just so that they'll have the questions, Walter. Were you guys at least about to answer some of the questions?
One second.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
run to the bathroom.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I code it.
Awesome, awesome. Can you share it with us?
Okay.
Let's see if I can stop participant from sharing. Okay. Go ahead. I think you can share it now.
This one?
Okay. Run the code and see what's inside the cell.
So I have to import the library first for that?
No, you don't have. There's no need for library.
Okay.
Let's run that.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, good. Hit run.
Oh, it's either.
No, you're trying to why are you adding that parentheses?
Oh,
We
so
don't-
just cells, right?
Yeah, because that's the variable you assign. Let's see what happens. Run that code and see what happens now. See,
Okay.
it's not your
Right.
list. It's not a tuple. It's a list. Do you know what you're doing there? So you were just printing this same word bunch of times. Where did you find this code? Like, did you come up from your head, or you found it in Google?
No, it's from it's myself.
Myself, like, yeah, this one. What you're doing is you're just printing keyboard a couple of times, printing keyboard mouse 3 times, again printing hard disk 4 times. So this is kind of like a complicated what you are doing. So I have no idea why you are doing this. You know what I mean? Remember?
Let that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying. Okay, like that. Try to copy the part that says keyboard times 2, and then paste it into the bottom cell.
Can you say one more time?
Yeah, just try to copy the code. You know the code that says keyboard times 2. Yeah, try and copy that. Copy just that part, right?
All the
Just
way to
that section. Yep, and then paste it in the bottom cell, and then run that one. Right, so you see that makes a list, right? Square bracket, 2 keyboard, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and basically, if you do the same thing with mouse, or you probably see the same thing, right? It's just a mouse, the square bracket, the mouse 3 times, square bracket, and you're just adding those. It's like what Chris was going over with lists last time, right? You can extend or concatenate them together.
Yep.
Right.
Join them together. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what you're doing there. So
Yeah.
now tuple. Remember tuple. When you create a tuple, you should always start with parentheses, square bracket, a round bracket. So for this one, you can say to create a tuples, right? You can start writing cells is equals to. You can say inside the parentheses, keyboard, mouse, and hard disk. That'll give you tuples, right? Make sense, Leknath?
Can you say one more time?
Yeah. Okay. Start typing. Cells is equals to. Equals to means assigning this variable equals to. Now not a square bracket, the round bracket, parentheses.
Parentheses.
Yeah. Now start typing keyboard inside the,
with the code.
yes, it's always has to be inside the code, right? Because if you don't put it inside the code, it's gonna think like it's a variable. So
Okay, it should be only on the single quote, not the double quote, right?
you can use both single or double, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay,
both.
okay, got that.
And there can be a problems when you use single and double, but that we'll talk about that later. But for now, you can use both single and double. Keyboard, and you can type in another one. Mouse. No,
With comma.
No, a comma, but inside the tuple. Everything has to be inside the bracket, a round bracket.
Okay.
All right,
That's
good.
fine.
Yeah, now hit enter and then hit run. Call the cell. Now call that variable. You have to call it, right? So now run it. That gives you a tuples. There we go. Now, if you try to change it, now do cells. Type cells again, and then on the positions, let's say 0.
Okay.
Square bracket 0. Equals to. Now try changing that to whatever you want to change.
Okay. I mean, any.
And it has to be inside the what is that, quotation again, wire. Now if you try to run it, see what happened. See, so you cannot change, right?
Yeah, I can say because the
Tuple cannot be changed.
Yeah.
So and then if you want to change that to the list, like convert tuple into list, all you have to do is call the list functions and then put cells inside the list. So that will change, right? So did everybody got it?
Yes.
Everybody get it? Right? It was pretty clear, right? Not too hard. So it makes sense, right? What did a tuple, what set and means. No, so now let's move on. Let me charge my laptop. So now what we'll do now is conditions, right? So we did tuples. Now next is introduction to programming using Python. Conditions, right? So if conditions, if else conditions, nested if else conditions. So we'll use that. We'll try to know how to use that. Okay. Okay, so first we'll do conditions, right? Let's go. So here is the syntax. If test some expressions, right? Then do this. Let's go to down bottom here. So we have an x, let's say this x variable 5, right? It can be anything. Now we're saying if x is less than, if x is greater than 3, then it will print hello, right? Now if you try to run this one, x is already 5. And is x greater than 3? Yes, right? The condition is true, so it's going to print you hello world because it met that condition. The condition is satisfied. So that's one. So you have the variables. You try it with the if conditions, and then if it is true, it will print. Otherwise, it will not print, right? So next, let's go down. Now let's use else. So that's only one if. Now we also want to do else. If else is basically just making decisions, right? If it is raining outside, I'll not go out, right? I'll just stay home. Else, if it is not raining, then I'll go outside and play. Right? So that's a basic logic or basic idea behind if and else. So if it is this, do this. If it is not, don't do this. Do something else. So same thing here. Like x equals to 3, right? If x is greater than 2, which is 3, right? And it's gonna print hello world. Else print hi world, right? So what is x? Is x greater than 2? 3 is greater than 2, right? So it's going to print you hello world. Let's say x is 5. Is x greater than 5? No, right? X is 3. So let's see what it's going to print. It will print hi world. See, whichever condition meets, it prints that. Otherwise, it prints the next one, if else. Right? That's basic about how if else works. And let's do some more. Right now, here is there is a two operator that you have to know, like conditions or and and. So and means both has to be true, right? This has to be true, this has to be true. Or means only one can be true, right? If either one is true, then you'll do that, whatever you want the condition is. So here in this case, we have a equals to 10, b equals to 11, c equals to 91. Now all this can be anything, okay? These are just a variable. We're just playing around with it, practicing. So this can be anything. Don't memorize this. So what I'm saying here is it starts with if, right? And see, if there is only one else, you just do if and then else, right? And you can have as many else as you want. Like you can have as many else you want. So if there is multiple else, then the syntax is you start with if, and then you do elif, and then you end with the else. So the last one is else. Okay. So if you want to have multiple else statement, then this is the syntax. This you have to memorize it. It's going to elif, right? So what I'm saying here is, let's say, is if a is greater than b and a is greater than c, then print a is the large, right? Else if that is not true, then go to the next one. If a is less than b is less than c, then print c is the largest. And if that is also not true, right? If that's false, then go to the next one. And again, programming, it starts from top to bottom, right? If that is true, it'll stop. It's not going to go down. If that's false, then it's going to keep going down and down until it finds what the exact answer, the true answer, right? So here again, else if a is less than b and a is less than c, then do a is the smallest. And if that is also false, go to the next one. If b is greater than c and b is greater than a, then print this. Else if everything is false, then just do something. Like something means like a, let's say, I don't know. Shit, what happened? Okay.
Hello there, I'm Siri.
Stop, Siri. Let's say you can do, I don't know what to do next. Like, I don't know what to do next. Right? If everything else fails. Now, what do you think it's going to run? Right? So if you run this, whichever is the true conditions, it's going to be C is the largest one, right? So whichever meets the conditions will print this one. It's gonna keep going until the condition is true. So that's one, right? So that's the idea about multiple conditions, if, just one, if and else. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now let's do loop, like basic about loops. Like what is loop? Loop is again, iterating over something again and again or multiple times, right? Instead of doing the same thing too many times, you're just trying to loop through it. So let's see for these simple examples, right? X equals to 1, any number from 1 to 9, and then what I want to do is I want to go through all these for I. So I is nothing, just storing each items. This I you can think of as a is. I can be 1, I can be 2, I can be 3, 4 change. For I in X, print square of X dot format. And that dot format, right? Remember we talked about just dot format. So what is this dot format is doing is, you see the curly bracket here? That is the empty space. We can put whatever you put inside this dot format. So dot format is again built in. So we didn't create anything. This is already, you just have to know this, right? So you pass in any string here and then dot format. And here we're saying what is I? So I is each time, right? I is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's gonna go each time, like we were talking last time, each time, right? So it'll give you I, right? I is all 1 to 9. And then that, not only that, it's gonna do another multiplication. So it's also going to multiply each time. So I times, I times I times I. So 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times each time. So what is going to, there is a 2 blank space. One for just I, which is all this number 1 to 9, and another space is for this is squaring I. So if you run this, what's going to do is it's going to go over this each time, and it's going to print. So this is printing. First, it's going to give you the number, actual number, and then it's going to square those. Make sense?
Yeah, got it.
Awesome, right? Okay, so that's for loop in short. Now let's go to another more examples, right? Again, more example of for loop. So here is some variable. Again, this variable can be anything, right? You can write a name, anything. And then what is this? That's tuples, right? See, it's inside the round bracket tuples. So this variable pets is a tuple that has a different bird, different reptiles name or whatever this is, bird, snake, dog, turtles, right? Now what I want to do is I want to change it to uppercase. I want to change everything here to uppercase. Bird, snake, make it everything to uppercase. How do we do that? Now there is one way we can do is, see, the hard way, right? I can do, let's say, each one at a time. Let's say page is equals to let's say bird, right? B-I-R-D, bird. And then 1 second. Now if I call page here, it's gonna give me bird. Now let's say I want to uppercase those, change it to bigger letter, right? I can do page dot, I think it's upper I believe. No, that's not it. Let's call this upper. Why is it upside dot? I think, isn't it upper, Walter? I thought you can change this to uppercase.
Uppercase, maybe.
Wait, what are you trying to do? You're trying to turn it.
Yeah. So just change one to uppercase. So you can change each one, like this bird to uppercase at each one, right? You can do that, or instead of doing that, we can change all these uppercase at one. So this for loop, what it is doing is you're going through all these at once, right? Go through bird, snakes, dog, turtle, cat, and hammer each time, and then change that to uppercase dot upper, right? And then there is a function. Remember we talked about append. Append means adding. First of all, we're creating empty list, and then we're adding this all the uppercase letter to that one. So if you print that, so everything is going to be uppercase. Let's say let's also print pits. See, the first one is all lowercase. That is tuples. And we changed that to, there is an empty list. We created an empty list because we wanted to store all those uppercase inside that empty list. And then using this dot upper, it changes everything to uppercase. So that's easy and faster way to do that, right? Changing everything into upper. So I don't know why this was not letting me just change.
If you do pet 0 and then dot upper, I think you should do it.
Oh yeah, probably.
This is a list.
Yeah, that's right. Pets, right? Go to the first items. Maybe it should work. Dot upper. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. So you can do each items. Do that for one items number first, and then again do for page 1 dot upper. So that's more time consuming, right? You're doing so many things over and over. For loop saves all that probably time. You just do once, loop over everything, you change that to upper. All right. Okay, so here is the expressions, like syntax. Expressions, right? For, and this is now another one. This is the longer form, right? So you do for, case, in page, and do this. Now you can write that in just one line, like one line of code, right? And this is more like a Pythonic, they call it Pythonic way. It's more better way to do for loop than using for some like variable in or whatever you're trying to loop through and then go through, you know, dot append and all those things, right? So this is a longer way, and if this makes sense, right? Sometimes it's easier to understand this one before you do this. The company is called list comprehensor. So now the syntax for that one is some expressions for items in to iterable. So iterable is nothing but just this any list or any tuples or anything, right? What it is saying is for each items on these things, change that to uppercase. Look at this shorter form, right? So pets, this is the variables, right? The pets is going to have each one pet. So pets dot upper is the one that you need to change to uppercase. In just one line, pets dot upper for pets in pets. So So this can be more confusing, right? So let me name differently so you do some animals, some animals, right? So this is the one that we want to loop through it, right? And then this is the variable that's storing each items, right? So if you run this, and then see, it's the same thing, doing the same exact thing, but much shorter. It's called the list comprehension. Make sense?
Yes.
Was it easy to understand? Not too hard?
It's getting hard but right now, but I know when you practice, it will be easy.
Yeah, it'll come back. So I'll give you some practice for you guys to understand. So I'm not going to go too much into details for now, right? So let's see. Before I go jump into another, right? So there is also nested for loops, like nested or means for loop inside the for loop that you can do, right? Let's say where is another one? Okay, so remember we can also do conditions, right? Earlier I was showing, where did it go? Conditions, this, right? All those conditions. Now we can add this condition inside our for loop as well. Look at this one. So this is the same thing, right? If some conditions, so expressions, right? Whatever you want to do, expression is anything that you want to change it to uppercase, lowercase, or you want to remove, whatever you want to do is the expression. That's the thing that you're doing for that list, right? In items, iterables, and then you do if condition at the conditions, whatever condition. Let's say, right? So let's try another one. Pets dot upper pets dot upper for pet in some animals, right? If let's say t in if not t, if pet in t. Let's see if this works. Oh, the reason it didn't work is it's already changed to upper, right? If pet in, maybe that should work. Wait, what is the condition, Walter?
No, you just gotta switch if T is in pet.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah,
just
yeah.
switch T in pet.
That's right. If T in pet.
Oh shit, that's bad. At the upper. Oh, and no, sorry, no. If lowercase t.
No, the lowercase won't work, right? Turtle. Yeah, there we go. Now, I think why
because we're
looking
only
to this
showing
one.
it uppercase, right?
Yeah, we're showing it uppercase, but all our variable is still lowercase. So what it is doing is, if t, right, whatever, if this has a t, then give those, like anything that has a t. Let's say turtle, cat, hamsters. If it has a t, then it will change to uppercase. Otherwise, it won't do it. Make sense? So you can add conditions within those nested list comprehensions, okay? And this is exactly doing same as longer versions. If you do this one right here, you can also add conditions. Now, so just remember that for now. Now let's go back to functions, right? I also want to cover some functions. So the syntax to write a function is just like for loop, you begin with for, right? For functions, you begin with diff. You define the functions, and function can be any name. And then whatever parameter you want to pass that, right? Like some list, get the max. So what is this? Let's say you have some functions, right? Some list. Some list that's equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. We call max name this different one. Get max items, right? Items, and then call that function get max items, and then pass some list. See, what is this function is giving you is giving the max elements in the in the list, right? There is some list, so and then first calling it max is also a built-in function. You can also do max. You don't have to do this one. Like again, if you do some list, right? Some list dot max, you can also. I think that also works. Oh, that didn't work. List update has no attribute max. Max of some list. Yeah, there we go. I was trying doing the opposite way. So you can also do this one, or you can also create, this is just creating a simple function that gives you the max elements in the list, right? So let's do another one, right? If you want to get the sum, right, you can also do the sum. There are some built-in functions that you can call, or you can also get your own functions, right? Again, functions, you define name of the functions and whatever parameter goes inside the functions, and whatever you want to return. It only returns one thing at a time, right? Let's do reverse. Like let's say you want to reverse this, right? There is some string. There's some string, and what I want to do is I want to reverse everything, right? So you pass in any string, like right here, I'm passing string is the variables, right? That has a name, this kimire, and then you want to reverse. Remember we talked about, you know, this slicing. So what is this going to do is convert everything. So like now I can call this function anytime, anywhere I want, and then it will reverse everything, right? So whatever from the, you know, last to the beginning. Right, so these functions, once you create with the defined functions, right, you can call this function anywhere you want. But there is another type, which is called lambda functions, right? This is another function that you'll have to remember. Lambda function is it's called anonymous functions, right? So you just create one time, and you can't call over and over. Now let's say you have functions, another one. So this is a function that you can call again and again, right? This function, what does it does? It takes two arguments, like x and y, and then let's say add together, like add equals to, is going to x plus y, and then what it's going to return, I want this to return add, right? So that's the function. And what is this going to do is you have to pass in any numbers, right? And then that function, this function is going to give you the sum of those two. Let's say you want to call this, now you have to call this function and pass in 2 and 3. It's going to give you 2 plus 3, 5, right? So these you can call anytime, anywhere you want, right? But this lambda function, another one, this is also the Python way of writing functions, right? So this, you can only create here. So you cannot call this function over and over anytime. So you can make that function for this purpose and for that only. Like and they what is that called? Oh, here is the syntax for the lambda function. So arguments, like whatever you want, argument you pass, and then expressions, what do you want to do with this, right? Arguments, let's say you have two arguments, x and y, right? And then what you want to do is you want to add those two together. Let's do it again. Now let's call add, right? And then first, so what is inside add? It's going to, what is in there? Maybe it has to be the same. What is happening here? Because the reason it was not working is because I didn't pass in the parameters, right? I called the functions, the function is there, but I have to pass this x and y, so that's what it was giving me error. So if I try to just call add, you also have to pass in the parameter. The function is there. Now I have to pass in the two parameters, right? 3 and 4. Then it will add. So that is Lambda functions, right? And you can also check the data types. It will tell you the functions. Any questions so far?
No.
Awesome, awesome. There's different kind, one functions that you can call over and over, and another one is a lambda function that you only create one time, and you cannot call those functions over and over. Okay. So, what else we can do next?
Do you want me to do conditions?
Yeah, do conditions.
Right. Okay. I'll share screen. All right. Cool. All right. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. So basically, conditions, as Chris was talking about before, was right. It's basically trying to evaluate if a function, if a statement is true, right? So 5 is greater than 1. That should certainly be true, right? You want it to tell us true, right? And if it's like 3 is greater than 1,000, right? That should be false, right? It shouldn't be true, right? So that's the conditions that Chris was talking about. And so basically you can like add multiple compounds into multiple conditions. So for example, like in this example, number is okay, that doesn't give anything new, right? So right, like LACNAF, like what do you think this cell is going to print out?
Numbers greater than 30. It's true.
Right, there you go. Very good. Right, that's what it's going to do, and it's just going to evaluate expressions, right? And then you can also put them like multiple conditions at a time, right? So number is 33, right? It's bigger than 30, but it's also less than 40, right? So that's going to be true. And if it's if not both of these conditions are true, right? And number is, let's say less than 32, right? This is going to print out false, right? If both of these conditions aren't satisfied, it's going to print out false, right? So that's what the purpose of the and expression is, right? And then or is going to get, as long as one of these are true. So number is, let me just print that number. Number's 33, right? So basically, if at least one of the expressions is true, it's going to print out true, right? So in this example, right, we have numbers 33, and we know it's bigger than 30, right? But we also know that it's not less than negative 10,000, right? But as long as one of it was true, it's going to print out true, right? And I already demonstrated, so this is just usage of the and operator, right? And you can also use parentheses to make the conditions more neat, right? Because when the conditions get really big, so right, so this is just if it's 6 is bigger than 2 and less than 8, it's going to print out true, right? So this expression, so this is a compound Boolean, right? It's going to evaluate if this inside the parentheses is true or false first, and then it's going to move on to this true or false, and then it's going to print out the final result. So in this little example, right, what happens is that what's inside this one, right, because the number was 6, right? The number is 6, right? So 6 is greater than 2, and 6 is less than 8, or 6 is less than negative, right? Does everybody see this? What this looks like right now?
It's false.
Right. Yeah. So basically, what it does is it would first check this expression inside, and it would turn it to true, right?
Yeah.
And or right, and then it would check this expression, right? And this is false, right? This is false, right? And then as long as one of them is true, right? There's an or, right? So the or means as long as one of them is true, then the whole thing turns to true, right? So that's why this prints out the true. Does everybody follow so far?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yep, got it.
Right, very good. Okay, and right, so these are just some examples. So I'm just gonna ask you guys to answer some questions. So for example, when I run this, What do you think? Let me ask. Nabin, what do you think this next cell is going to print out?
True.
Let me see. Okay. Why did it print out true?
Because 10 is greater than 8 is, oh, okay, hold on. Because it says or, and like you got two different functions, or like you got two different thing over there, and one of them is true. That's why.
Very good.
10,
Right.
yeah, 10 is greater than 2, but and also 10 is less than 8, but one of them is true. So
Very good. Very good. Right. Because this one turned to false, but then this one turned to true. Right. Right. So false or true, you know what it's going to give. Right. It's going to give true. Right. So that's basically what happened. Right. So very good, Nabin. Okay. So how about this one's a little harder. So Shushma, do you want to give this one a try? So what do you think this one's going to print? And it's okay to take your time. You don't have to answer.
Okay, so we are, what's this? So we have two conditions here, or and. In first condition, it's or. Is 40 greater than 30? Yes, true.
Very good. Right.
It's 40. Or means one has to be true. So the first condition is true, and 40 is less than 1, false. So since there is and, the answer will be false.
Very good. Right. Excellent. Nice. Very good job. And right, so that's basically compound expressions. And this is okay. Right, and this is just how you check if a letter is inside a word. So the word is Walter, and I just check is W in Walter. It's true, right? Is Z in Walter? Right. I don't have a Z in my name, so that's false. Right. And also, yeah, it's basically that's how you do that. So right, so if I set the word to Nabin, and then Peter, do you want to give this next one a try? What do you think this cell is gonna print out?
It will print false first.
Right, false first on the left-hand side, right?
Yeah,
Right.
And in the world. And false. Oh, true.
Right, so this is true, right? Yeah, this is true, and then
That's true. And H is. We don't have H in the world, isn't it? And H is.
right, no H in his name.
There's no H in there. So that's
false, right? This
that's
H
false.
here.
There's nothing in there, so it should be false.
Right, so we have true over here, and then false over here, and there's an and. What do you think that gives us in the middle?
So you give false, I reckon.
Yeah, right, false. So this entire thing would turn to false, right? So then if you have false or false, what do you think it gives you?
It will give false.
Very good. Yeah, that's excellent. Very good job. Right, and that's basically that condition. And then, right, so the next example is, and the word is Chris, right? So, Leknath, you want to give this one a try? What do you think this one's going to give you?
This one, hold on. Okay. And yes. First one statement is true.
Very good.
And
Right,
and last one is false.
right. So, what do you think the final result is going to be?
True.
Very good. Right, it's true. Right, because one of them is true.
Yeah.
And right. Yeah. And Chris, you want me to keep going with this, or because I have some other stuff if you want.
Yes. Also a couple of other thing, and then we'll start working on getting started into a data set, actually working on the actual data set, because that's when it will start making all this sense, right? So
okay, all right, so yeah, let
me share. Okay, so one more let's do another for loop, right? With conditions inside. But let's say you have a list, right? Again, list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you want to loop over this guy. But then what you want to do, you want to add conditions, right? You see I showed you this one inside the list comprehensions, right? So this is a longer form, shorter form, and you can do, if you want to expand that, so this is what's going to happen, okay? So first of all, to create anything, right, you create empty dictionary or empty list or empty tuples. You just specify that, right? So this is empty list. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through these items, right? Some list items, and then if any of these items, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, if that is greater than 2, and this can be anything, right? If that is greater than 2, then I want to print only those. So what I'm doing is now, if it is greater than 2, then fill this empty list with whatever value is greater than 2. So addition is the empty list, right? And then we talk about append. Append is going to add on to, now see all these are coming back. So why do we append? Because we want to fill that empty list with whatever value is inside, right? See, if it is greater than that, then what it's going to do, it's going to go through those, and not only that, it's going to add 1 to that. See, if it is greater than 2, here's what, 1, 2, 3. 3 is greater than 2, right? Now what's it going to do? It's going to go to, it's not going to do anything up to this point because this condition is not satisfied, right? So once it gets to where it's greater than 2, now it's going to do another operations, which is going to add 1 to each one, and then it's going to append all those value to this empty list addition. So if you print back additions, then it gives you everything, right? And the same thing can be done using this one, the shorter form, right? So remember, that's the expressions, right? What I want to do, I want to add, and add what? Add 1 to each items. This k can be anything, right? Any variable. Add 1 to each items in this list, right? This list. But condition, you can specify condition if only k is greater than 2, right? So this is a shorter form of doing the same thing. List comprehensors and the expanded form of the list, right? So what did we cover? Let's go back and look at it. So we talked about set, we talked about tuples, we talked about for loop, right? And we also talk about conditions, different conditions that you can pass in within the for loop, and functions, right? Different, we can create a function. There's two types of functions. One that you can call anywhere you want, and another one that's anonymous functions, lambda functions, which you can create only for that specific task, but you cannot call that over and over again. So now, do you have some basic ideas about what all these do and some syntax, right? And what we're going to do, what I want to start introducing you is like where are we going to use all this? That's the question you guys have, a lot of you. Like, when do we need all these things? Like, what are we going to use all these things for? And when you don't use these things, you might understand now, right? And then later on you'll forget because you don't know where to use this. Now we're going to start into actually where all these techniques that we just learned is going to be useful, right? So let me open this. There is a data set called Iris, right? Which I'll share with you. Like, let me open in an Excel. Actually, Iris. I think I have Excel file. .csv. Yeah. One second, it's opening. Come on. Okay, so when you are working as a data analyst or data scientist, right? So this is what's going to happen. So they're going to give you a CSV file. Not always, not all the time. Like most of the time, you have to go and create your own CSV file, which we'll talk about this when we do our SQL programming, right? So for now, what they do is they'll give you this data set and they want you to do all the analysis. Use everything, use Python basically, and then whatever you learn in Python and give me an analysis of this data, right? So what I'm going to do now is this file is in CSV, Excel form. Now I want to call this file, bring this file into my computer, into my Python environment, right? Now remember, you have to import this, just like we were, last class we imported collections. From collections, import counter. So now this is pandas. Now we're starting pandas, right? So from pandas, import panda as PD, right? So this is just giving a short, it's called alias, which means you don't have to type this panda over and over again. So just giving short form. So first you have to call that library, right? Import that library. And there is also another library. This is how you import the libraries, import, right? And the seaborn is for making charts, bar plots and all those things, which we might cover now tonight, or we might not, but this is how you call, right? So you can also seaborn as SNS, always give a small alias. So don't worry about these two. We'll do this in our maybe next class, right? For now, just this one. Okay, so let's run these. Now I have to call the data set, right? Iris.csv, where is, I don't think I have saved this file, but like, how do you call that? Like, the question is, how am I going to call those files, right? PD, first of all, you have to call anything. df is the one that we usually do. df means the data frame, right? Data frame equals to PD dot, if you do read underscore CSV, that means read that file, right? Now you have to specify where that file is. I have no idea where that file is. It's available here, so you can download. Okay, don't worry about that. So which folder are we in? I think we were in the week 2 folder. Let me go back, and now you have to go back and see that CSV file and the and the notebook that you are working on has to be in the same folder, right? So let's see, let me go back here. So this is the Python notebook. Doesn't look like I have data, so data is not here. So if you go back to actual folder, right? Let me go back to the folder. Basic Python, week 2, Iris data. So I have the notebook, but I don't have the file, so I need file here. Okay, so let me, my file is somewhere, I don't know where it is, somewhere here. So I need to bring this to the same folder. 1 second. So right here, what I can do is I can go file, save file as, and where I want to save, I want to save the desktop, and go to this guy and go to basic Python, and then I want to go to week 2, save it. Okay, now if you go back, we have the data, right? So data and the notebook has to be in the same file, same folder. If not, it's going to give you an error. It will not work. Okay, now let's go back. Now let's go back to our, see if you go there, now we have the CSV file. Okay, Iris, right? Now let me call the file. What is it called? Iris.csv, right? So this in your computer, it's not auto completing, right? As I'm typing, let me see, I'll show you what I'm talking about. As I'm typing PD dot, if I just type read, it just auto completes for me, right? But for your computer, it's not doing it. So the reason it's not doing is you need a code that will actually do autocomplete, which I will I have the code. I will share that to you guys, right? I think it's somewhere saved, so I don't know where it is right now, but I have to find it. So in that way, you don't have to type all this VREAD under CSV. It just completes that for you. Okay. So now if you run this, now we just loaded file from CSV file. So if you want to see the first, just how does my file looks like? My file is really big, really long, right? I want to see only the top 5 columns, 5 rows. Then here is the function. You type in data.head. If you do, oh, not data, sorry. So why it's giving me error? Because data is not there. It's df, not data, right? So I need to change that to df. So look at that. So this is how my top 5 row of my Excel files looks like. Right, so this is how you get the data from CSV to pandas, and then this is how you see the first one. Now let me just delete this too many times, right? Let me do it again. Okay, now you want to look at this is the top 5. Now let's say, okay, that's good. Now I want to see the bottom 5. What is it? 5, right? You can specify there, like let's say I want to see the bottom df dot. If you do tail, it's pretty easy, head and tail, right? Tail. And then you can just leave this not pass any argument here in this function, or you can pass in, let's say I want to see the number 10, then run it. It gives you the 10 rows. If you don't specify, just 5, and you can do however many you want. So
Chris, when you did like 10, it shows the bottom 10, right?
Yes, bottom 10. When you do tail, it shows you the bottom 10. When you do head, it shows you the top head. And there is also another one we can do, which is, let's just keep this one here for now, okay? Another one is df dot sample. If you do samples, right, it's randomly going to pick any sample. Give me 10 sample. Now this one is not going to be top or bottoms. Out of all, I think, let's see how big. Now next thing is we want to see how big is my data, right? df dot save. Oh, so this means my data, like this file, CSV file, has 150 rows, this many long, and it has a 5 column. Look at it, if you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the columns, right? Columns are also called features. Like these are 5 features, and I have 150 rows. Any questions?
So what if we need to see from the middle?
Middle, yes, you can see it from the middles, right? What you can do is you can again do, let's say, sample, give me 10 to 20. No, you can't do that. Hold on. df dot, I think, head from 10 to 40. 40. No, that's not gonna work. What's gonna work is give me a row. Okay, this is how we're going to df dot l. I think ilog, right? Ilog, which I'll introduce that later. Give me all rows and give me columns, all columns, I think. Yeah. So now here you can specify however many, any numbers, like in between, how many, starting how many rows and starting how many columns. This ilog and all those things, it will come back to as we go, progress through the course. I'll teach you all those things, ilog and log. So these are different functions. So for now, just remember how to print the top 5, how to print the bottom 5, and how to do the sampling. Just get the random sampling of those things, and you'll be fine. Okay, and let's say now this one is about getting data from your folder to your Python file, right? Now, let's say you want to export that file to back into the folder. You want to create another. You can, to get the file, you do pd dot read csv, right? But if you want to send that file, then you do df, right? Whatever file you want to send it back to the folder, df dot to csv. That means give me another csv iris file. So it will create another file inside your folder to bring the file and to create another file in the folders, right? And this can be useful if you are like out of 150s. If you want to save only like 5-10 sample, then that's how you do it. Export data to CSV. All right, so we talked about sampling. Now, how do you check? You check the data set, right? How big is your data? That's what you do. And then, yeah, the one that you was talking about, slicing. Remember we talked about slicing? That's how you do, df from that to that, like however many you want, right? So, but before we do that,
okay.
Before we do that, let's do this. Df dot. There is another one, columns, right? What does this give you? So this gives you all the column name. See, you have column this, and that. Like right now, it's not a big issue. Only the 5 columns, right? When you're working in the actual problem, there's going to be hundreds of columns. So if you just specify column, that will give you all the list of the column that's in the data, right? Df dot column. And then another one you have to do is df dot info, and you want to get informations about the files, right? Or the different data type. So each columns are different data types. Data type means, what is this one? So this has 6.7s, right? So this is float, right? Is a point. and then if it's not point, this is not, it will be an integer format, like integer data type, and this will be a categorical object because this is numeric, right? So this thing, we have to take care of these things later on because computer don't understand the strings, like just the English word. We have to change that to numeric form for the computer, for the algorithm to work, right? So what does infor does, it gives you the information about each variable. Look at this, sepal length, right? Sepal length here. What is this? This is a float, right? See, look at it. Data type float because it is a numeric with decimal point. Everything is a float data type, but this one, species, is object. Object means like it's a categorical, right? It's not number or not integers or anything. So you cannot do any kinds of math on this thing. So df.info give you the information about data. Now, what else you can do? Let's say you only want to get certain column from the data, right? So we talk about list. Now you're like, when do I use list, right? df1, let me df is my original data, right? So it has dot head. So that's my original data. Now I don't want all the 5 columns. I only want like 2 of them or 3 of them, right? Then what do? df1, let's say name to different variable equals to df. From df, give me what? Give me sepal length, SEPAL sepal underscore LEN length, and another one is give me species, SPECIS species. Now what is this one? This is a list, right? We talk about list. Now we have to give it in the form of list, and then give me all the value from that data. Give me the list of the columns and give me the value in that column. Now if you do run this, where do you go? Sepal length is not indexed. Maybe it's a spelling error. SEPAL LEN. See, it's very. You have to make sure the spelling is correct. LENGTH. It's always a good idea to copy and paste sometime if you have to type it over and over. Copy and paste. So now if you look at what is inside the df1, see, only 2 columns out of 5. Make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Walter, do you have any? Do you want to talk about anything in pandas?
Not in particular.
Okay, no problems. Well, because this is just the starting of pandas now, right? We're going to do a lot about pandas. So this is just the beginning. We're just showing. I'm just showing you how to get the data and how to put data back into the CSV and how to get just specific column, how to get the informations about the data, how to get the column names, how to get the data shape, size of the data and all that. So there's a lot of other things that we can do with pandas, which I will not do tonight. I think we covered a lot of information tonight. And one last thing I want to do is let's say df.describe, right? Now why is this going to be important? Let's say your boss wants to know like what is the average sepal length, what is the mean like average sepal length. Then if you do just describe, it gives you everything. It gives you how many instances are there. It gives you the mean. It gives you the standard deviations, how far away from the mean. It gives you the minimum sepal length, maximum sepal length, like Q3 and Q4. That's some stat which we'll cover maybe in a couple of lecture from now. So describe gives you all the. It's called the simple statistic about the data, right? It gives you mean, median, standard deviations, and all that. So I think that's all we'll do because too much information is going to just get overwhelmed. So you learn about functions, you learn about loop, and you learn about list, sets, remember all those. And then now we are getting back to how we are going to use everything that we are learning, right? How are we going to use set, where are we going to use tuples, where are you going to use dictionary, and all that. So all other informations we will cover in our tomorrow's class, actually. Any questions so far?
No.
Awesome, good deal. So
Okay.
so if no questions, then we will continue whatever we left tomorrow evening. But if any questions, just practice those that I am that we cover tonight, and then any questions, then just send me a message.
Okay, we'll do that. And don't forget to share the recording as well.
Yeah, I will share the recording sample. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, if you could send me recording from the earlier classes, that would
Yeah.
be cool.
I hope it
If you have
recorded.
any.
Yeah, I hope it recorded because my computer was acting up earlier and it this is giving me a hard time.
Oh, if you have old one, send us as well.
Yeah.
It also
It is recordings, right? It's recording, but I have no idea where it's recording. That we tried. I spent almost like 2 hours trying to find out where it is. Now I have to call Zoom and find out where all those recordings are saved. So that's the problem. It's not saved in my computer. I need to figure those out. And then tonight I started doing a screen recording, and then something happened to my computer. That's going to be a big problem if I didn't find it tonight. Okay, I'll share the recording with you if I find it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Where is my recording? Why is it not recorded? Some guy didn't record.